Deceased David. The internet. Some say the greatest invention since the light bulb. Others says it's the root of all evil. While it certainly isn't as bad as that, one would find it hard to disagree that sometimes dark things can fester on the World Wide Web. You never know what kind of sick person can lurk behind the screen. Their life untold, their history a mystery. Every day, we see viral videos come and go faster than rabbits. But do we ever stop to think who these people are? This is the untold story of those people. David Daniels. His tale has earned the title of cyber legend among users of the net. It has been told many times, but never to complete accuracy. The story is so horrid and grisly, in fact, that those who have tried to tell it in its truest form have had their attempts quickly removed from several websites. This is the story of a boy with a burning desire to obtain the epic high score of internet fame, but took it a few steps too far. This is the cautionary tale of Deceased David. I would continue this in that voice. Do I just change it? Do I just change it instantly? Yeah, I'm gonna change it instantly. David Daniels was a young teenager, 11 years of age. He consistently wore blue jeans, merchandise for his favourite YouTube influencers, most commonly his blue t-shirt smotch thing, and his green hooded jacket. He had brown medium hair, akin to the likeness of Anthony Padilla, which also obscured half his face, but didn't as he didn't want to cover his fashionable sunglasses hiding both of his eyes. Why did he wear those glasses? Nobody knew at the time, but someone would find out, and the answer would shake them to the core. As a baby, David was abandoned by his birth parents, who left him in front of the local orphanage. When the orphanage master opened the door, she wondered who could be so cruel as to leave their own child, their own flesh and blood on his doorstep. But she would quickly understand as she took one look into the child's eyes and immediately realized that he was not to be trusted. She picked him up and quickly purchased a plane ticket to Joseph Orphan, the worst place she knew. Upon arrival, she dropped David onto the doorstep of the first house she saw. She rang the doorbell and rang. She decided that the evil was now their problem, not hers. A young couple, Anthony and Margaret Daniels, would open the door shortly after. They had been unable to have a child, and when they saw one show up at the doorstep, they believed it to be a miracle and blessing. He would be named after Anthony's favorite Battle for Dream Island character later that day. Little did they know, this boy was not a miracle nor a blessing. In fact, he was quite the opposite. The moment he arrived would change the trajectory of their lives forever. David would grow up during the age of the World Wide Web. At age 5, he was given his first iPad, where he would use the YouTube app. He took a liking to meme content, funny skits, comedy videos, and parodies. He watched a game video here and there, but he wanted to be among the greats of online entertainment. His dream was to make his very own viral video and join the likes of Smosh in the Internet Hall of Fame. I think he liked Smosh. He decided that particular day that nothing to stop him. Although time had moved past and the channels he watched, David did not. On one particular day, his father tried to introduce him to the cartoon Battle for Dream Island. However, David quickly dismissed the idea. What? I can't. I fucking love Creepypasta by Ben Scary. What? Is that a baby? BFDI dismissed the idea as he viewed the shareable objects competing for silly prizes babyish. This would enrage Anthony and forever strain their relationship. Margaret would be David's favourite parent from this day onwards, and Anthony would not speak to him for years to come. At age 9, he was given his first laptop, where he could start to produce content of his own. He started a YouTube channel of his own called Ultra David Productions 2011, which amassed 2 fucking subscribers, hell yeah! Both of which were his parents. However, at school, he was an outcast, a freak. The other students thought his obsession with cyberfame was weird. Some, they all deemed him as a terp, a dweeb even. David wanted nothing more than to kill these people. A deep, seething hatred for his opponents would fester during his time at school, and these urges would not leave him. He would frequently hear voices from the back of his mind, demons that had struck him since he was a baby. These voices would tell him to do horrific things, which David considered many times. However, he decided it would be too much effort for now. One day, David would be picked up by some students again. Only this time, the outcome would be much different. "Hey David, got any subscribers yet, loser? Ha ha ha," they said. "Actually, I already have 2, so shut up," David replied. "Who are they? Your mommy and daddy?" They were. "You guys probably watch Jake Paul and Local Paul anyways," David rebutted. But this did not stop the hate comments, and unlike YouTube, there was no way to simply delete them. This saddened David. However, suddenly, a boy with blonde, spiky hair and a dark sweater would approach the group of scoundrels and say 2 words. "Back off." Then he lifted his, quote, middle finger towards them. The students began to pick on him as well, only this time he would fight back. David watched in awe as his mortal enemies were having their I can't say that! Oh my god, that's such a bad swear! Kicked by a mysterious and bad stop swearing student he had never seen before. He even kicked one of the normies in the face, which was pretty cool in my opinion. "We surrender!" the students cried before fleeing into the playground. The boy smirked, crossed his arms, and started to tap his foot, showing that he was quite a chill guy. David noticed this. "Thanks for getting those haters, the bro," David said. "But why me?" The boy then removed his sweater, revealing PewDiePie both his merchandise underneath. "Because I'm like you," he answered, "and those kids ain't nothing but a bitch lasagna." David's eyes lit up as he understood the reference, although you couldn't tell at this point because he'd already purchased the iconic shades which hid any of emotion of his eyes. "Name's Ryan, and my favourite YouTubers are PewDiePie and Mr. Beast," he said. David got up from the ground and held his hands out for a handshake. "My name's David, and my favourite YouTubers are Smosh and Tobuscus." "Well, David," Ryan said, "I think we're going to be friends." David has finally made his first friend, and more importantly, got a 3rd subscriber to Ultra David Productions 2011. When he got home, he celebrated in his room, so he'd finally make a comedy skit for one more person. Haha. Or so he thought. 2 years later, David would attend his first year of middle school. He was completely alone this time, as Ryan had moved into the forest. There was no chance of the collaboration now, unless he could make new friends. However, this would prove to be very difficult because in his new school, he was ostracized yet again. As most schools pestered him for his aspirations, he would wish so badly for a real-life block and report button. Santa Claus ignored his wishes each year despite it being very, very clearly on his Christmas list. Eventually, David realized this was no use and decided to take matters into his own hands. This was the moment David finally lost his mind. Every day he would practice shouting "Shut up" from Smash's intro. In a likely event that the students would try to pick on him again. He would frequently interrupt dull lessons with his practice sessions, although it seems as though for each time nobody got the reference that he was making. It was a shame, but it was worth to see the look on Mr. Sider's face when he absolutely #trolled him. He got into trouble and got sent to detention very often in the room. The final straw was the day he drew the rage comic face on the whiteboard while the teacher left the room. He was expelled from the school for being a general nuisance and an embarrassment to all who attended. But David didn't care. He took this as a positive to his life. All it meant to him that there was more time to surf the web and start cooking up some #virals. His parents, however, did not see it the same way. As they drove home from school for the final time, they realized they had made a big mistake buying him that iPad. They knew his obsession would only lead them to dark places. He had to do something. Anthony did not speak to David since his son's refusal to immerse himself in Jack and Jellyfish's magnum opus, so Margaret took it upon herself to talk to David on her own later that day. David was partying to himself in a room, playing the song "I Keep Holding On" by Doctor on loop through his laptop speakers. He had a knock on his door. It was his mother. "David, sweetie," she said, "could you pause the music for a second?" "No," David replied. "Oh." She continued anyways, as the music kept playing. "I need to talk to you about today. Why did you get yourself expelled? Your father and I are worried about you." David was not in the mood for this confrontation. "If you must know, Mom, I did it for the #Vine. The Vine app had been shut down for years, but David simply thought the phrase sounded cool. "I wouldn't expect an army like you to understand," he said, before smirking and high-fiving himself. "Now if you excuse me, I got a party all day." He continued dancing to his music. Margaret couldn't bear the sight of what her son had become. Could she have prevented such a tragic downward spiral? Was there anything she could do now? She had tried something, but what she tried would prove to be the second worst decision that she had ever made in her life. "That's it," she said sternly. "I'm taking away your laptop until you can stop obsessing over these memes of yours. You'll never be like the Smash Brothers if you keep this up." These were the words to finally break David. This was the moment he finally snapped and lost all insanity. "They are not brothers," he said, clenching his fist. The demons within him were louder than they ever had, so they spoke to him in a clear, deep voice. "Kill your parents, David," they said. "They are merely obstacles standing in the way of your destined internet stardom. Secure your future." David was hesitant at first. Could he really kill his parents? The very people who took him in where nobody else would? He did not want to do it. But then he did it. He slaughtered his own mother in cold-blooded, as the part of the song that goes, "And my hope will never die," played. He picked up the lamp in his room and hit his mother directly in the heart. She fell down. Death was instant. He was horrified at what he'd done for a brief moment, but quickly realized that she was a wicked beast who needed to die. His father heard the ruckus and swiftly entered the room. He saw his beloved wife's lifeless body. He had no choice but to finally speak to his son again for the first time in 6 years. "David, what have you done? My life is dead because of you. You are truly a, quote, whack job. We should never have taken you in. We should have left you on the street when we found you. We should have thrown you in the garbage," he yelled while crying. However, these emotional insults didn't faze David in the slightest. David removed his sunglasses to show his father what truly lay beneath his savage spectacles. His eyes were growing a bright demonic red. His possession was apparent. Anthony quickly realized that the boy they had taken in that day was not merely a child, but of personal, pure insanity beyond reason. Like an inanimate insanity. He had entered beast mode. Anthony knew that this was the end. He said, "Ah, seriously?" David did not understand this reference as he still had not watched BFDI. Little fucking editor's note, when I was reading this, I actually knew he would say that. David began to sing to the tune of Toby Turner's Find a Diamond. "It's about time that I killed my father. It's about time that I killed my father. It's about time that I killed my father." He started leaping towards Anthony, which scared him a little. He tried to escape, but it was no use. With one final line from David, his father's fate was sealed. "Hope my father doesn't mind when I kill him." He punched his father in the nose and then in the brain, killing him instantly. It was done. David's two biggest obstacles were no longer an issue to him. David took all of his devices, including his laptop and iPad, placed his father next to his mother, and burned the entire house down. Once he was outside, he realized the view of his ignited house could make for a funny shot, and a cutaway gag and a potential skit of his. So he turned off his iPad, opened the camera app, and started recording himself in his home, which at this point was completely ablaze. He couldn't resist the urge to set the camera to selfie mode, get himself the shot, and shout at the top of his lungs, like a boss, while smiling at the camera, looking like the Disaster Girl meme. He chuckled to himself like the Disaster Girl meme, as the recording was quite reminiscent of the Disaster Girl meme. Why did this happen? Well, you may recall from earlier, David finally snapped and let the demons from hell take control of him. They fueled his desires and made him stop at nothing to get what they wanted. After this, nothing would stop him from grabbing his dream, not even the two people who raised him. However, after this incident, David realized he may have made a terrible mistake. Although the achievement was unlocked, the truth of the matter hit him like a truck. He had just lost 2 subscribers, and his house, he had nowhere to go, and his sub count was at an all-time low. The only friend he had left on his sub count was his childhood best friend, Ryan Gaming. David finally made his way into the forest. He knew Ryan lived in a shack somewhere out there. All he had to do was find it, and then he could finally fulfill his dream and create his very own, quote, viral video with Ryan's help. Before the incident, David had tried absolutely everything, even the sour sweet challenge, but it was no avail. 0 hits every time. But now that he was free, he had more time and freedom to think of something good. He had to do this, or everything he did would have all been for nothing. It's what his parents would have wanted. It took a total of 4 hours of walking through the wilderness to find what he was looking for, an isolated shack in the middle of the woods with light coming from the inside. He knew this must be Ryan. He knocked on the door gleefully. However, this feeling would not last, as when he opened the door, he saw none other than Jake Paul himself standing there. He started singing "It's Everyday Bro" as he took a step back to reveal the entirety of Team 10 standing behind him. David hated Team 10. He found the song to be utterly embarrassing and started to cringe like Cameron. He couldn't take it anymore. This must be hell, he thought. I must have died and went to hell. The foreshadowing could not have hit David just yet. David woke up from the nightmare, realizing that it was not real. He was not living in a Cameron Cringer's cringe compilation after all. He was laying on a bed in Ryan's shack and saw him holding his favorite food, a chicken nugget between two biscuits, all dipped in mashed potato. Ah, damn, Daniels! You're finally awake! Ryan greeted David while referencing one of his favorite vines and favorite Skyrim memes simultaneously. Ryan, it's been too long indeed. David began to starve down that food that he'd been given. He was delighted that Ryan had still remembered his favorite feast. "What were you drinking out there?" Ryan asked. "You must have been walking around for hours." With no food or drinks. He pulled out some, quote, Mountain Dew from his refrigerator. David eagerly grabbed the can and all of its contents in approximately 10 seconds. "My house burned down and my parents died. Do you want a collab?" "Okay." David threw his laptop and iPad on the table. Let's meme. Their plan was to record and upload a sort of comedy video similar to that of a Tom SKA or a Smosh skit. Ryan and David's characters would argue over something pretty trivial before breaking out in a fight while Kevin McLeod's movement proposition played. This video would end with David kicking Ryan in the face and declaring himself victorious. The outro music would be Kevin McLeod's cut and run, and David would do a little victory dance. After many takes, edits and cuts, they had done it. They knew this was the one. This was going to be the video to make it big. This is it. They watched the final video on David's iPad and giggled jumped out in a silly delight upon witnessing the finished product. It may have been the funniest things they'd ever see. They began to upload it to David's Ultra David Productions 2011 channel and watched it one last time on the iPad. However, Ryan accidentally swiped left and it showed the next video saved onto the iPad, and it was David's burning house. He started to sweat nervously. "David, what's this?" he asked. Just a bit of dark humor," David replied, knowing a man of culture like Ryan would understand it, but it was too late. Ryan played the video and saw David in front of his burning house shouting, "Like a boss," at the top of his lungs. It was over. David's dark secrets were out. Ryan had discovered what really happened and who his best friend really was. "David, what the flazwad, dude?" Ryan was horrified. His reaction was somewhat similar to the dramatic chipmunk video, which David noticed and thought it was quite funny. He chuckled for a second before realizing the gravity of the situation. He knew he had to tell him the truth. Ryan, please, you have to understand. The demons, they told me to do bad things and they told me to kill my parents and burn my house down. They had control over me. I had no choice, David explained, but it was no use. Ryan refused to listen, like he was the "like a boss" meme. He backed away and slowly said, "I'm sorry, David, but you're too dangerous to be left alive." This is a Star Wars meme reference, by the way. David's demons spoke to him yet again, this time louder than ever. They said, "You know what you have to do, David. He knows too much about your twisted sins. Kill him. Destroy him." He was hesitant at first, just like his parents were, but he quickly realized that his potential viral meme was already uploading onto the web, meaning Ryan was no longer needed. David said, "Okay." This was the beginning of a descent into madness. At this point, he had lost all of his remorse and feelings. He was bad. He reached for the empty can of Mountain Dew and threw it towards Ryan's face. Ryan, being more skilled in combat, dodged it. They started fighting and it was a little crazy, a little bit silly, if you will. They fed outside and continued to brawl, like in the quote Star Wars meme. David was getting impatient. He had to kill him fast. He knew he had to activate his dual demon power. So he did. He took off his sunglasses and his demon power gave him more powerful and started floating in the air with power. His glasses fell off and they could see the darkness within him. His eyes were glowing red, with tears of blood falling from them. He let out a demonic scream with the words he had been rehearsing for so long. Shut up. Smosh reference. David yelled before charging up his full demon powers. He unleashed a demonic blast upon Ryan, but Ryan was too skilled. He jumped up, dodged the beam, and kicked David in the head as hard as he could. And Ryan had killed his best friends. Or so he thought. Ryan could not believe what he just did. He killed his best friend. He didn't want to think about David's laptop. The upload was 99 complete, and after what happened, the last thing Ryan wanted is this video to go viral. So he moved the mouse onto the cancel and block button. But before he could click it, he heard the sound of a big hail portal opening and closing behind him. David's body was gone. What happened? Well, you see, when David died on his side, the demons inside him grabbed him and sent his body in salted hell dimension, where they could give back his life in a new, creepy pasta form. In hell, the demon chanted this and said to David, "This was the only beginning of your reign. You aren't finished with this world yet. Rise. Rise, rise." The power engulfed David, altering his appearance. David said, "Okay," and was sent back to the mortal realm to teach his final subscriber a lesson. Ryan looked back and saw David was standing up again. Only it wasn't the David that he knew anymore. The man of culture he met at school was gone. Deceased, so to speak. This was the moment that David lost his mind. His skin, this ride, was grey, like a rotting corpse, like in Sonic.exe. His eyes were glowing red again, with blood still running down his face. Only this time, it didn't stop. There was a nasty blood scar on David's forehead where Ryan kicked him. Ryan knew that David was merely a zombified shell of who he once was. But he did look kinda cool and badass, like in PewDiePie. Unfortunately, Ryan also knew that this was the end for him, so he gave himself one final PewDiePie-style bro fist before David approached him with malice in his eyes. David shouted "Mortal Kombat!" like from the song. Then he started punching and kicking Ryan really fast like in the game. After shouting "Finish him," he used the final combo move to end Ryan and then punched him into the ground. David performed a little victory dance in what he did, and I think it was epic win. He found his cool sunglasses on the floor and picked them up and put them on, completing his iconic look. He entered the shack to check on his laptop, and he saw that the upload was complete. Ryan was too late. He was going to become a sensation, and he knew it. He took his laptop and iPad and walked off into the woods to find a new home. Shortly after the bit of a battle, the police discovered what was left of David's house. His parents were also burnt to a crisp alongside the building. The next day, David discovered Ryan's shack and Ryan's body in it. They immediately knew that David.exe was the perpetrator, as he was still missing, and it also cut all connections to all 3 victims. The 3 victims were referenced Sonic.exe. The police had been trying to track him down ever since the incident, but the only clue they could ever find was from Ultra David Productions 2011, titled "Epic Fight Comedy Skit, Make This Go Viral." As of today, he is still at large. If you have any information on the whereabouts of David Daniels, age 11, please contact us. Stay safe. Epilogue. As David aimlessly wandered through the woods, he thought he'd better settle down here for now. Nobody would find him if he stayed here in the middle of nowhere. After a few days of moving around and eating various animals in the forest, he saw something peculiar from one of the trees. A page. How strange. He didn't have time to think about what it was. And then he heard a deep, frightening voice behind him. David. David turned around in terror when he saw startled him. It was a man, but he was tall and thin, slender, so to speak. His skin was pale white. Oh no, and he had no facial features. Oh no. But David immediately recognized him as the creepypasta that haunted his and many others' nightmares for years. Slender Man, David said to him, how do you know my name? Because, Slender Man said, you're trending. David's skit had got 1 billion hits. After the news broke of the murders, he became the #1 most wanted man in the world. The case caught the attention of various web forums and blogs, making Dave the most viral man on the net. His notoriety and infamy gave him the greatest cyber success he could ever have wished for. He got what he wanted, and now everyone on the World Wide Web knows his name. David jumped in his chair and said, let's go! That reference to the red plumber who I do not like. He was delighted. However, the Slender Man had more to say. I've seen what you're capable of, David, and I'm impressed. What do you say a bunch of guys like us team up? Maybe we could do some good. David was quick to respond, or we could do some bad. This is exactly what Slender Man wanted to hear. You're exactly who I have been looking for, Slender Man said. He reached his hands out to David and said one last thing. It's time to show the world the true meaning of horror. They both set deeper off into the woods to prepare their reign of terror. This would only be the beginning of the end. That was scary. That was scary, guys. There's two versions. Oh my god. Okay, bye.